Tim, are you and Mark ready?
What? Okay. It's not?
Is our clerk substitute ready?
Recording in progress.
Okay.
Attorney's ready. He's like Mr. Wilson on that TV show. Remember that? Tim the Toolman, all I ever see is your eyes.
I know, that's what
WTOC.
That's right.
Prepare myself.
Yeah.
Tim has left the building.
He's checking on the other room.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Tim, you ready? We're going to call to order the Effingham County Board of Commissioners regular meeting this May 16th, 2023 at 5 o'clock p.m. Take roll call. Mr. Floyd?
Here.
Mr. Burdette?
Here.
Mr. Corbett's here. Mr. Deloach?
Here.
Mr. Loper?
Here.
And Mr. Kiefer?
Here.
Everyone's in attendance. If everyone please rise except Mr. Burdette, we're going to allow him to sit.
rise.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay, he's still recovering from his broken back. But if everyone please rise for invocation, remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Gracious Father, we are so thankful again to be here tonight, to have the opportunity to listen to the business of the community, to discuss the business that you've laid before us and the agenda as it's been laid out by our staff. And we pray for your wisdom and discernment as we make those decisions that will bless our community and be pleasing to your sight. We ask this in the name of Jesus, our Lord and Savior. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance. So the very next item after the pledge is the agenda approval, consideration of a resolution to approve the agenda. Madam Substitute Clerk, is there any adjustments or corrections to the agenda?
So,
Yes.
Yes, okay. County Manager will take that.
Okay, so we've got, we're asking to postpone in the consent agenda item number 7. And under old business, item number 3, 4, and 5.
New business?
No, under,
Old business.
Old business.
under unfinished business, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Under unfinished
3, 4, and
business,
5.
you want to remove,
We want to postpone them, so
okay,
yeah.
To a certain date or just
well,
later to be determined?
Yeah, day to be
Okay.
determined. I would
Okay.
imagine we may be able to get it in 2 weeks, but depends how quickly I can get the information.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the noted changes.
Second.
you have a motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Burdette to approve the agenda with the noted changes. Let me just clarify with our attorney. Since these were agenda items, I'm trying to see if there's anybody that might be attending here tonight for these items. I don't think so. Do we need a date specific that there'll be?
I would go ahead and give it a date specific, and then at that point, we can continue it some more if we need.
Yeah, 'cause I think usually our clerk always tells me she needs a date for these things.
Okay, so let's postpone them to the June,
First meeting in June?
the first meeting in June, which I believe is the 6th.
Okay. Would the motion, Mr. Deloach, accept that?
Yes, I will amend my motion to postpone those 4 items to the first meeting in June, which is June 6th.
In the second, you accept that as well?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, the agenda is before us and it is approved. Next item is our minutes, consideration to approve the May 2nd, 2023 regular session minutes. Are there any corrections or additions noted from the board? Motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Motion by Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Loper to approve the minutes as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, the minutes are unanimously approved. Welcome to everyone who's in attendance tonight for this meeting. Appreciate you being here. It's always good to have our public and our constituents to work with us. Comments should be on the agenda items only, please. Should you wish to make a remark or make any comments, clearly state your name into the microphone before beginning to address the board. That helps our clerk because she can get the names correct and write good minutes for us as well. Even though some of us may know you when you come up, state your name if you would, please. The documents for this meeting are located in the clerk's office and on the Board of Commissioners website. So hope everyone's had a chance to review that. And then the next item on our agenda, number 9, is Keith Lancaster is going to discuss the dirt roads within the county. He's asked a few minutes.
My name is Keith Lancaster. I'd like to address the county chairman, chairman and manager. I'll get y'all right in a minute. And all the county commissioners. I appreciate the time to allow me to come and speak to you. This is not what I do every day. I love doing metal work, and we do fabrication, and we build stuff for Gulfstream and different places. But speaking is not one of my things. But anyways, I'll get through this. Basically, I grew up here in the county. My parents moved here when I was a year old, actually, and believe it or not, tomorrow's my birthday, so I'll be here 61 years. And with that being said, I grew up on Highway 21. Back when I was a kid growing up, 21 was a 2-lane road. A lot of y'all can remember, and some cannot. We have made a lot of changes here in the county with the roads. I'll say that there's a lot of roads that were dirt back when I was a kid that are now paved, and you can actually go down the list and start naming them. And some people say, well, I don't ever remember that, but like Ron Station Road, McCall Road, part of Springfield Tuscombe Road, Brogdon Road, I mean, this just in my area that I've been around have been paved. Back in the 90s, the commissioners, not probably any of y'all, maybe one or two, if any, made a commitment to do the ash on the roads. And I understand it started in the north, started in the south, everybody working towards the middle. Well, right now I live in the middle. So basically, when they started having the issues with the ash, they stopped. And I understand that's a good thing to do and to figure out what you got to do to fix it. But since then, we've been spending a lot of time, I know, working on the ash roads. Maybe 2 or 3 times or even 4 times, and now we actually can see in the county that we actually resurfacing them. With that being said, it seems like the dirt roads kind of get pushed off to the side. And I was actually had a conversation with Jamie, he's my commissioner, and I was asking him what are the plans for the dirt roads in the county. And he said there's no plans for the dirt roads. So I asked him, is there any way I could come and speak to y'all? And I know that a lot goes on in the south end of the county, and we're growing a lot in the south end of the county. And you have to take care of the roads down there, but it seems like everything in the middle or the north is kind of pushed to the side. And maybe I'm just thinking that, I don't know for sure. But I've moved out to Bowen Road, which is off of Springfield Tuscombe about 27 years ago. 27 years ago, I knew it was dirt when I moved on it. I didn't really like that part about it, but I did like getting away because I was on Ebenezer Road at the time. And many of y'all know Ebenezer Road is a very busy road with the with ash hauling out of the power plant. There's a lot of activity on that road. 27 years ago, when I moved there, I thought one day we might get this road paved. And then when they talked about doing the ash, I thought, okay, this is the opportunity, and then that fell through. Well, I've been very patient, and I really hadn't said a whole lot. I know I'll call Jamie every now and then and talk to him. I don't really bug him because I don't think that's the way we need to be. I think if we work together, we can get through all this together. I know that y'all probably get calls in y'all's areas from all types of people complaining about their roads. It can be an ash road, it can be a paved road. They're gonna complain about it. I know they will. You know, if we lived in a perfect world, If we got a little rain every other day, our road would be great because they get just enough moisture not to get washboard, but not too much moisture to be a boggy mess. And that's what we're up against. Either we get too much rain and you can't get down it for the ruts, or don't get any and it's just like riding down a washboard. It's very hard to keep a nice vehicle, and I know y'all heard that before too. I know it was in the late 90s when all the ash roads started, but I think the biggest thing I wanted to share is it kind of breaks my heart to know that commissioners don't have some type of plan. I know y'all have a plan and y'all are trying to take care of the ash roads, and every year you put maybe a list together and say, okay, we're gonna take care of this road, but you never see anything on there about dirt roads. And I think the people that live on the dirt roads feel like they've been pushed aside. The ash roads has kind of been the thing that's been taken care of for the last 25 years. I think it's time that we come up with a plan. And I'm not saying you gotta do it this year, next year, but we need a plan that you can show the people. The people in the county need to know, okay, your dirt road is gonna eventually be done, and this is the schedule we have. Maybe you can do one dirt road a year or whatever, but come up with some type of plan. Please do that for the people that live in the county. And if y'all could do that, I think that'd be a plus. I think it'd get people off y'all's back as far as the problems you have with your roads. The more you put out for people to see, I think the better things will be. I know I run a business and we right here in the county, and I'm thankful for that because I don't have to travel to Savannah every day. I got 9 employees, and I just moved another company into my warehouse that have 9 employees. That's a good number to have here in the county that are working here. And one of the great things that I want to say is we have been hiring young men right out of the vocational school here in the county and right out of high school here in the county that's learning how to weld. And I think that's a great thing that we can actually grow our community with kids that are living here and growing up here. But basically what I wanted to say is if we can come up with some kind of plan, I think that would be the best thing we could see happen for our county. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lancaster.
Anybody got any questions or?
No, I think it's a good reminder.
Okay.
I mean, I think I would suggest that maybe what we do, obviously, takes a lot of money to pave a road, but I like your concept of let's at least get a plan. We prioritize dirt roads, and we may have some type of plan that the staff is working on, that we just haven't discussed as a board, I don't know. But there may be a plan where you do a quarter of a mile, and then you do a more, and it's gotta be prioritized between collectors and arterials. The way, I'm like you, I lived on Little McCall Road, and McCall Road was dirt, I remember that, Little McCall Courthouse, and it was boom, 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 washboard, so, like you, I've been here many, many years. But I know the choices made back then by a previous commission was probably based on what dirt roads are collectors and arterial roads to start with, because that helps everybody, you know. But we're probably beyond that now, and there's some roads that probably are minor collectors. You have minor collectors.
Well, yeah,
Maybe-
basically Bowen Road is a connector from Guyton to Springfield Egypt Road, and even on North 21.
It might be a minor
When they come to
collector now, too.
Guyton, they come Bowen Road to cut through, because it's an easy way to get there.
But I think a plan would start with assessing the density on those roads, so we can get the right dirt roads that we start doing a little bit on. And I think it'd be good to get a plan and see what
Well-
the funding would be and see how we could work that into our T-Splost and.
Well, I'll say this, though. Part of the problem is that there was no funding for roads outside of LMIG prior to T-Splost, right? And that started about 3 years ago.
Correct.
And so we were, part of the reason we used Dash because it was free, and we didn't budget, and we didn't have the budget to do what we wanted to do. And so when T-Splost came in, it really became a issue of a triage issue, where these ash roads, which we thought we were improving after Winter Storm Grayson, actually were worse than before we put the ash on it. So we had to kind of address them first. We did that initially with chip seal, and in some cases we did some repaving. But I will say that there is a section in the T-Splosh where we do categories of road maintenance. That is this one coming up in November. That is dirt to pave. We are going to start off with, as the chairman said, with the, or we're going to recommend to start off with the roads that are arterial roads as best we can. But even the roads that we cannot address, we've been chip sealing ash roads to try and make them passable. Well, you can start that process on dirt roads and actually substantially improve them without having to go through the full expense of repaving. And that's one of the routes that we want to go as well. So we can get some immediate relief to the roads. And then over time, hopefully we'll, as time goes on, we'll be able to repave more miles of roads that are out there. But there is a plan. It's just we didn't. It's really more recent because we just started talking about the adoption of the new T-Splosh.
Okay, all right. Yeah, back in the day, and when I say that, back when I was a kid, Ebenezer Road was just gravel and tar. I mean, that's the way we used to do county roads.
Yeah.
Right.
Mr. Lancaster, we appreciate it. There is so much in a growing county that it's good for constituents to remind us of some of the things that we are probably out here, but we need to move a little closer to our attention. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for being
Okay,
here.
thank y'all.
Thank you, appreciate it. All right, good stuff, and we'll build on that. We're gonna move to our consent agenda, item number 10 on our agenda. This section shall include all the routine items for which there will be no discussion. Should need arise to debate, the item can be moved to an appropriate area of the agenda. So as I read these, if you want to remove an item, we can discuss it under new business. Item number 7 is already removed, so just note that, and I'm going to read the other 8 items. Item number 1 under the consent agenda is consideration to approve to renew a lease agreement between Effingham County Board of Commissioners and the State Properties Commission for the Georgia Department of Human Services Division of Family and Children's Services. This is lease number 3362. Consideration to approve to renew, this is item number 2, consideration to approve to renew the communication tower lease agreement with the State Properties Commission for antenna/receiver space. Item number 3 is another agreement, consideration to approve to renew the memorandum of understanding with Effingham County Board of Education for the use of schools as disaster shelters. Item number 4 is another agreement, consideration to approve to renew the memorandum of understanding with Effingham County Board of Education for the use of 7 school buses for the purposes of evacuation in the event of a disaster. Item number 5 is another agreement, consideration to approve to renew a lease agreement between Effingham County Board of Commissioners and the State Properties Commission for office space for the Department of Juvenile Justice. This is lease number 8588. Item number 6 is another agreement on the consent agenda, consideration to ratify and affirm an amendment to the capacity agreement between Effingham County and the Georgia Department of Corrections. Item number 7 has been omitted. It's postponed to June. So item number 8 is consideration to approve to renew the intergovernmental agreement for mental health/drug court for the Ogeechee Judicial Circuit. Item number 9 is another agreement, consideration to approve an easement agreement for Georgia Power Company related to property located at U.S. Highway 80, Georgia map number 301, parcel number 27. So those are our consent agenda items. Do I have a motion to approve them as read?
To approve as read. Second.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second by Mr. Kiefer to approve as read. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, the consent agenda passes unanimously. Then we'll move to unfinished business. These are items that were on a previous agenda. Item number 1 under unfinished business is the planning board recommends approving of a request by Three Bird Development LLC to rezone 39.46 acres located on Highway 30 from AR1 to AR3 to allow for a 213 units of multifamily residential development. map number 352, parcel number 18 in the first district. This was postponed from April 4th and then postponed again from May 2nd. And we'll open the public hearing and we'll begin from hearing from our staff.
Good evening, Chelsea Fernald, planner. At the May 2nd meeting, this item was discussed at length. As you can see, this is the parcel of land. This does show the wetlands layer and floodplain layer. This is the new concept plan. It does show only the one entrance at Highway 30. It also shows the stub out to the neighboring property. It also does have the added 5 lots from the previous 213 plan. So this is the 218 plan. This new plan does meet all R3 requirements, and Mr. Bird is present at this time if you do have any additional questions. Staff does recommend alternative 1. So I will step away. I know you guys were hoping to speak with Mr. Bird at the May 2nd meeting, so.
Yeah, and so we may start there to let Mr. Burke, because you had some questions particularly if you want to.
Right. When was this sketch plan submitted? It went from, we picked up 5 more lots?
I believe so, yes, sir.
What did we lose? I say we. What did the neighborhood lose to pick up those 5 lots? Because I know there was concerns with making sure we have the adequate green space and those type things.
I'm not sure if the, excuse my voice, I'm not sure the neighborhood lost anything. We didn't lose anything at all as far as the neighborhood goes. We kept all the parks, we kept all the walking trails. We kept the road frontage that we're gonna be donating to the county up front. It's over an acre.
One of them, I think it had to do with the original plan had dual entrances on 30, and then when it went through GDOT for a review, which I kind of figured this is what they were going to say, they because of the limit access policy on the road, they restricted it to 1. And if you could kind of see on that yellow area in the front, you can see that if you can continue the road, there's probably that's probably where the additional units came in, in the front where the road used to be.
One of the questions, we just had a workshop just before y'all got here about affordable housing and things of that nature. We're just kind of curious. Whenever something like this comes up, people immediately say this is for rental or this is going to be Section 8 or all these horrible things. Describe what your price point is on these, what size units, bedrooms.
Yes, sir.
What are you going to build?
Yes, sir. This will be about a 1,400 to 1,500 square foot plan. It's an entry level price point. It'll be in the 200s. These particular units are 3 bedroom, 2.5 bath. They're 2 stories. There's a garage, plenty of parking. Yes, sir. So this is kind of the new entry point, price point,
The units will have a garage parking. And
Yes, sir.
For 1 vehicle. And
Yes,
then
sir.
They don't have availability. in
At least
driveway
2.
For at least 2 more.
Yes,
And
sir.
then You do have off-street parking, which we do require,
Yes, sir.
which is good. Okay.
This also meets the ordinance as far as the architectural standards we expected.
Yes.
Different.
Yeah, and so we stagger. We have them stagger the front of it,
Right.
just so that it doesn't look like a plain vanilla wall. And he included all the additional requirements.
We've got a community center.
Yes, sir.
And
With a milk kiosk.
recreational Dog park. all
Yes, sir.
that.
We also have a bus stop that's inside the community.
Sidewalks throughout.
Yes, sir.
About the delineation on the wetlands, has that been completed with the Corps?
Yes, sir. Yep.
we may have some more discussion from the board, but good to get that information.
Okay.
We're in a public hearing, so I'll listen to the public, or we will listen to the public. Is there anyone tonight, first
Thank
of
you.
all, speaking in favor of this beside the developer that would like to speak? Is anyone who'd like to speak in opposition to this request tonight? Yes. Okay, you can come to the microphone and state your name for the record and share your concerns.
My name's Michael Maddox. I own the property next to the subdivision. I built the subdivision called Greenbridge Farm. It's a large lot subdivision with energy efficient houses and an organic farm in the subdivision. They're calling these now agri-hoods, agriculture in the neighborhood. So I expected this to be a little bit later, so I wasn't prepared to be speaking this soon. I've been to all the meetings except one pertaining to this subdivision. And most of the ones I went to, well, all the ones I went to refer to this as affordable housing. But I just heard that the entry level is around 200,000, something like that. Is that what he just said? I assume this is Mr. Bird? Okay. Can I direct a question to him?
Chairman.
You need to direct it to us. And we
Okay,
can
then
ask
you
him
can
to
ask him?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so the original subdivision had 355 units. That was, I guess it never got to the commissioners. That was rescinded or withdrawn for whatever reason. What was the original, what was the reason that the original 355 unit subdivision was not approved by the planning board? Can anybody answer that?
Mr. Bird, can you help us with that? You can help us with that, yeah.
We knew y'all were working on a new ordinance, so we wanted to work with the county, and we wanted to we withdraw it so we could work with y'all on the ordinance.
So it sounds like that there was a time period, to answer your question, when we saw the writing on the wall that we may have some higher density and less quality than we wanted. So we put a moratorium for a little while because we had transportation concerns and other concerns to let us relook at our zoning. And that's what you're alluding to?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
And it did allow for perhaps more density because we added green space you have to have. Used to, green space could include wetlands and buffers. We took that away, reduced what you could use for green space. We required more common space, off-street parking. All these things would lower the density of the previous R3 zoning that the county had. And a lot of this was done by the board to improve the type housing that might be under R3, knowing that this boom of growth, we need to get ahead of it. So that makes sense.
Okay, so what I'm trying to figure out is is there some sort of like plan for the county on where the high-density subdivisions are going in? And is there any provision to try to provide low-density areas still?
Yes and yes. And we are in the middle of working on a master planning for land use in our county. While we're doing that, we're considering what we've been discussing in that master plan, what constituents are giving us and sharing on that as well. But we have to keep moving forward while we're making that concrete. So one of the things is going to be, where do you have water and sewer? That's where you can have higher density. You can't have higher density where you got to have a community well or some kind of septic tank system for each house. So it makes more sense that you consider it where you have water and sewer. And this is an area where we have water and sewer available for higher
Okay,
density.
so my sister lives next to this subdivision, proposed subdivision, and she's on a well and septic. So in which direction is the infrastructure coming from? I mean, does the church have it up there, the Lutheran church? Is it coming down 30
I
from?
think the infrastructure's all the way up 30.
It goes all the way down 30.
To 17,
the
right?
full length, and keep in mind that, obviously, our water and sewer services are fairly recent to where some of these neighborhoods were built, and so some of them may still be on water and septic. Well and septic, but they if the septic goes bad, they can then tie into it.
Is that optional?
It's potential. It's a little bit of a struggle on sewer because if you're an individual home, you know, you'd have to do a lift station in order to get enough pressure to get it in there. Water is a lot easier to tie into than sewer. But it's available basically anywhere, pretty much everywhere on 30 via the county.
Okay. So it was my understanding at the original meeting last fall that plan was going to be scrapped and there was going to be a new plan. Was Mr. Byrd given a punch list of things that he would need to do to bring it into compliance? And
He's got the new zoning.
Yeah.
If we put a moratorium on it, then you can't do it. So he's apparently been looking at the new zoning, and that's the punch list. That sets what you can do and how dense it can be.
so what is, from what my understanding is, you can put 9 houses an acre now in Effingham?
What is R3 permit?
R3.
Steve, want to answer that? And if you would, please, I need to know what your objection is to this, because that's what hearing's about.
Okay,
I need to know what your objection is, if you're speaking objection to this
okay.
development.
I was trying to get some history.
That's right. He's got it right. It's 9 per acre for R3.
I do want to give you that history, 9 per acre for R3.
And that's been reduced under the new ordinance. And just for the backup, Mr. Byrd submitted this original plan, the higher density one. He was grandfathered in under that application to the old zoning code. He chose to withdraw it, knowing that when he resubmitted it, it would be subject to the more restrictive code, lesser density. And so that's kind of how we got where we are right now.
So the original it was, you could put like
It was
12
12
houses?
per acre for multifamily, yes.
Okay, so there's 9 now.
There's 9 now, but I think this is less than 5, I think, somewhere around there.
Well, if you take the number of houses and divide it by the acreage,
Yes.
that's not really a clear description. Most of the houses are on my property line with a 20-foot buffer.
Okay,
That's where
well, that's kind of the history. Now, if you want to share with us your concern, so we can consider that.
Yeah, well, okay, I built a subdivision in the country, and then after this gets built, I won't live in the country anymore.
Okay.
Forrest had a lot of trouble understanding that, but if you've never lived in the country, it's
Well, just-
yeah, so you don't really understand the difference between
Mr.
being
Maddox,
next to a woods.
Mr. Maddox, I need you to share your concerns and not get in
Okay,
conflict with the.
my concern is I built a large lot subdivision right next to this.
Okay.
In my opinion, we have precedence. We were there already. I'm not sure what this is supposed to be helping. Nobody in my subdivision wants this.
We're going to listen to them now. So,
Yeah, well, they're not here. I'm the only one. So,
okay.
okay, one last thing. The way this works now is that this is an artistic rendering, the plan we have now. They have to submit an actual
Sketch plan.
a drawing by an architect or an engineer that's to scale. Am I correct about that?
They got to submit a sketch plan.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's right.
and then that has to go to the planning board.
No, that comes back to us, I believe.
Does the planning board look at the new plan?
Not the
Building
sketch.
plans? No, that's through
No.
the building staff level department, building department, if that's what you're referring to.
Start with sketch plan.
Go ahead.
Oh, maybe he,
Yes, sir. So sketch plan will go to planning board, and then you guys will also see it
I
as
thought you
well.
meant vertical building construction.
They're doing the rezoning now, and so while I anticipate what actually comes to us since he's done the delineation, that this concept will match basically what the sketch plan is, he does have to come back to us with the sketch plan on
I
this.
know to us, but they're saying it has to come back to planning board.
Oh, for a sketch plan? Sure.
Okay, I was thinking it came straight to us, the sketch
I
plan.
mean, the plans go to the planning board, right? So the
Yes.
planning board is
The
what they are.
sketch
Okay,
plans are-
so I'll wrap it up. You don't want to hear what I have to say anyway. But have you ever had anybody in Effingham ever tell you that they want a townhouse subdivision put in next to their house? Forrest was wondering why these are so unpopular. Well,
I didn't have any, my first home was a townhouse. I never said they were unpopular. Just
Well-
nobody comes to support these. The only people that show up at these meetings are people that don't want to see it.
Yeah, well,
But he'll
in
sell every one of these.
in the original application, it says that Mr. Byrd had talked to the residents. My wife and I are the ones that are gonna be mostly affected by this. He didn't talk to me.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
you know,
we appreciate your input, and we're gonna listen to other constituents as well, but thank you.
okay.
Anyone else tonight speaking in opposition to this rezoning request? Anyone else that'd like to speak? Seeing no one coming forward, I'm gonna close the
I have a question. if I
I'm
can
just
ask.
close public hearings off.
Okay.
I'm gonna close the public hearing and we'll let the board have its discussion. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, this would be for Mr. Byrd, I guess, or maybe it's on here already. Is there a fence around
Mr. Byrd? Mr. Byrd,
Mr. Byrd?
if you can come back to the microphone, there's a couple of questions maybe from the board.
Do you plan on putting a fence around the development?
Is that a requirement for
Well, it's
R3?
not, but my biggest concern
And
with
there's a-
this type of development, and it's kind of out of characteristic for the area, is to protect the surrounding residents and not force them to have to put up a fence, but you're the new developer in the area. I think it would be reasonable to ask for that. too.
I would rather leave a natural buffer where we're not gonna, where we don't go in and clear all the trees, or we can leave a natural buffer all the way around instead of putting a fence up. That'd be
And
more
there's
natural
also
look.
a large part of it is a pond.
Yeah,
I think the natural buffer is part of the ordinance, right?
yeah, it's
I
about,
believe
yeah.
that- I
Natural
don't- I
buffer
don't
is-
remember the-
So I'm gonna leave that instead of putting up a fence.
And I'll tell you, I had a discussion with Mr. Allen today, because he and I were on different ends. He likes fences too, but he agreed that the chain link fences are nothing. Because we've all had property and they just lay them down and cut them. He said on his property. So unless you put some really expensive bar fence, I don't think you've done a lot. I think you do better to do what the board has been doing. Get quality development with, clubhouses and off-street parking and dog parks, recreation areas, plenty of green space, and then leave a good buffer. I think that's probably the better way to address property lines and property development to me than putting a fence that could just, because you gotta clear out to get a fence. You gotta clear some property to get a fence, and then it just gets pushed down or people climb on it.
Just
and
overgrown.
It becomes ugly.
Yeah. I just trying to put myself in those people around, myself in their place. You know, I've seen them in the past have privacy fences that keep, kids from wandering on their properties and through the woods, and, green space isn't gonna prevent that, but fences would help, I think, a little bit of just green space, or those buffers.
If you did it, you probably want to do it just in the green spaces that's not covered by the water. You know what I'm talking about there?
Yeah, true, they're not gonna walk in the water, hopefully they
Because
wouldn't.
right here, you've only probably got a little, I don't
I
know,
don't think it'd be a
200 or
major
300
deal,
feet
but
of privacy fence, huh?
Well, that's what I would want if I was an adjacent homeowner, just to. They're gonna be kids, they're gonna be people wandering out in the woods. I've seen it happen lots of times, and
I don't think we can make that a
can't make them do that.
requirement, but we could recommend on those areas where there might be some possible traffic between, you can see where they would be.
Yes, sir.
Some type of privacy fence, I would say over a, chain link fence that's just gonna get knocked
Yeah, I'd
down,
rather see that.
might be something to consider, And I know you've worked real well with residents in other places that you've built, so.
But overall, the project looks good. I just like to see some protection for the surrounding people. I've seen other townhome projects in areas, much more dense on smaller footprints. And this is about half of that density that I've seen in the past, so.
Yeah.
Whenever we started this ordinance, that was the whole discussion on how to reduce the density, how to get more green space, and
And better quality.
Better
and
quality.
improve the quality. It's not that I'm looking for this, this is what the property owner brought to us. He's met all those requirements.
Okay, any other question, discussion on the board?
Yeah, I think it's I kind of got stuck at the beginning on one of the comments that was made earlier is townhomes are not in this area, but he's checked all the boxes. It appears, once I've got the details, it is a kind of more so what I've wanted to see, because I've made comments in the past about common space, green space, and its walkability, trails, dog park, community center. I know in sitting in the stakeholder meetings, with our recreation plan, master plan with pond, that's kind of one of the top 3 items that the stakeholders are commenting on is walking trails, walkability. And so I think he's checked all the boxes here.
Well, and I would add, I wouldn't say it's completely out of character, maybe to some of the houses that are next to it. But if you go down 30 just a little ways, there's a pretty high density neighborhood down there. So there is some density already in that area that's right across the street. 4 houses an acre. So, yeah, and this is, reiterate, like 5 per acre is what they're gonna be doing here when it's all said and done. So, but I think it does meet our ordinance. We tried to beef it up to get better quality, so I'll leave it there. This is other question, discussion. Do you have a motion?
I'll make a motion we approve with planning board and staff recommendations.
Motion by Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Loper to approve staff and planning board recommendations. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no.
No.
Oh, sorry. Mr. Burdette voted no. So the ayes have it, and it is approved. We'll move to the second reading. Consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Three Bird Development LLC to rezone 39.46 acres located on Highway 30 from AR1 to R3 to allow for a 213-unit multifamily residential development, map number 352, parcel number 18 in the first district, postponed from April 4th and then again from May 2nd, 2023. Do I have a motion to approve the second reading?
Make a motion we approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Floyd, second Mr. Loper to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no.
No.
Let the record show Mr. Burdette voted no. The rest are ayes, and the ayes have it, so it is approved. And with that, that will move us to item number 3 under unfinished business.
Item 6, right?
I'm sorry, item 3, 4, and 5 has been postponed. Thank you, sir. Item number 6 under unfinished business is a second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Terra Moore Development LLC as agent for Ashley Fleetwood and Angela Usher. Request a variance from required development buffers located on Shawnee Road and Georgia Highway 21, map number 264A, parcel number 20 and 21 in the 3rd District. This is postponed from May 2nd. And as a brief reminder, I think we added a condition that if they didn't use that wetlands as a buffer, then if they filled it in, they had to go back to the 30-foot buffer. That was the
Correct.
condition. We had that condition.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had to wait to this meeting to get approval of second reading. So do I have a motion for the second reading?
I'll make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Kiefer to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously. And that'll move us to our new business. Item number 1 under new business is consideration to approve the first reading of the budget for fiscal year 2023 and 2024. And Mr. Barnes, you have the floor.
Okay.
I know you've worked very hard and the staff has too. Mr. Tim, we appreciate you guys. Share with us our budget. Proposed.
Good afternoon, I'm Mark Barnes, Finance Director. Tonight is the first reading of the draft fiscal year 2024 budget. And like usual, I do want to emphasize that this is just a presentation and a hearing tonight, not the budget adoption. You have a copy of the budget agenda in your agenda documents, and with that, we're going to run through some highlights in that document. Aside from capital projects, which can change a lot from one year to the next, the fiscal year 2024 proposed budget doesn't contain any major surprises or departures from the prior year. The county continues to be in a strong growth position despite some economic headwinds nationally. And this proposed budget kind of reflects that while still being a conservative financial blueprint for the county. So this is some of the financial context that the budget was constructed in this year. The preliminary digest was not available at the time this first draft was constructed, but the digest is available now, and in the second reading, those numbers will be in there. As we expected, the new preliminary digest does show strong growth across residential, commercial, and industrial properties. And new properties contribute more to that growth than the reevaluations of the existing properties. in the preliminary digest. The sales tax revenues continue to show strong growth, and we expect it to remain that way in fiscal year '24. And kind of in that same vein, the vehicle title ad valorem tax has also been coming in very well in recent years, and we expect that to remain. While inflation does seem to be slowing down a little bit in fuel, utilities, and some other expenses for the counties, it does continue to be a concern. It's something we're watching out for, and capital projects and some equipment acquisitions are still being held up by really long lead times and supply chain disruptions. So those are kind of part of this budget, and you'll see in the capital section, we have some carry forward from prior years because of those delays.
Do you have a percentage of what that, I'm trying to get my head around 25% growth in our digest. What percentage of that 25%, you said most of it was new construction. Do we have a percentage of that?
The numbers were, I don't have it in front of me, but it was about 60% new and 40% reevaluation of existing. I would say something
60
something
new
in
and
that.
40% maybe revaluation? Okay,
Mhm.
interesting.
In that ballpark, yes.
I'd be curious, commercial, industrial versus residential, you know,
And,
just.
and
We have
I can
that.
tell you,
Yeah.
Brett, some broad numbers on that, and we're just, I mean, we just got the numbers, I think, on Monday or something to that effect, and so we were just putting them into the spreadsheet. You continue to have extremely strong growth in industrial, and it's about I think it was about a 58% increase. The residential, and this is both the new growth and new construction. So the residential saw about like a 20
to 30.
Yeah, about 30%. But I think the surprise one, certainly for me, while commercial growth has been flat over the last decade, I think it saw something to effect of about a 40% jump this year. Which is certainly a relief to see. So that's in addition to the industrial growth. Those are really the big factors out there that are driving these numbers.
This slide has a little bit of information, just kind of an overview of the general fund itself. And the general fund is the main source of day-to-day service delivery for the county. So the sheriff's office, EMS, elections, courts, and some other areas like that are all funded by the general fund. This year, the draft budget has an overall increase of about $2.5 million, which is about 5.5% of the general fund's budget from last year. The general fund capital projects decreased this year, while other categories increased. Chief among them was the personnel category, which we're going to cover that in a little bit more detail in a future slide. The general fund budget is balanced by using a proposed $2.5 million of fund balance. That's with $3 million in capital projects in this budget. When the new preliminary digest numbers are in the second draft reading, we expect that fund balance usage will probably go to zero or nearly so in that draft. The budget was constructed with a tax rate of 5.939 mils. For the county M&O, and that was compared to the tax rate on last year's tax bills, which was 6.939. So this is currently, the budget is using an estimated older digest with a full 1 mil down and still manages to be balanced, with fund balance usage being underneath what we have budgeted for capital. Currently with the preliminary digest as we have it now, if we were to do the typical rollback calculation, that would have the millage rate at 6.425. So this budget's balanced, well underneath that at 5.939.
Yeah, I want to make sure everybody understands what we're talking about here. This is huge for our constituents. A mill's worth about $3.3 million, if I've got the number fairly close.
Mm-hmm.
And the board has been looking at, because of this growth, particularly in the industrial area, helping constituents out and giving back that $3 million to our community. So we made a commitment. We asked our staff to, when you budget to give a whole meal rollback to our constituents. So all the constituents in the county will get the normal rollback for that homeowners who have been reappraised and got higher. Taxes go up if you get reappraised, right? So we're gonna roll that back with the loss to get that back to the previous dollar amount for the valuation. In addition to that, we're gonna roll it back further to make sure it's a whole meal. So we're excited about staff putting together a budget that is lowering for our constituents one meal. So even if your assessment goes up, your general fund, the taxes that we control, we don't control all the taxes, but the taxes we control will go down for this county, for our constituents, for the commissioner's share.
Can we release this chart at some point?
Yeah.
Just let people see it? Because a lot of the constituents still think we've got the highest millage rate around, and they don't understand it.
Yeah, and that's another point. Tim can probably fill the detail of this, but I know in the 12 coastal counties, I believe we're the lowest now, but this will put us well below the other counties.
Correct, and so if you look at the chart that's up on the screen, there's a couple of anomalies here that need to be addressed. Glenn County doesn't fund our two most expensive services by countywide taxes, which are Sheriff's Department and EMS. They do that by special service district for a county police department and a service district for EMS. So if you added those back into the equation, it would put them about a little over about 6.5 mils. And then to be fair to Bullock, they're really somewhere around, they do something different with their local option sales tax. So their real millage, apples to apples, would probably be about 7.8%. And so, but even with those, when you take those into consideration, Effingham County is by far the lowest. You'd have to go all the way up to Burke County, which has 4 nuclear reactors on the tax rolls, in order to get a millage rate that is lower than Effingham County.
Great.
In some of these cases, it's substantially lower. I mean, it's not even close. And these do not include municipal millages. This is just the county general fund, or M&O millage.
Yeah, I just point that out to know we have a lot of roads, a lot of construction, and we're getting it done through the help of our constituents who give us T-SPLOS and those kind of things, but we also want to give back when we have growth, and our goal is to continue to give back to our constituents when we can. But I want to make you aware that hopefully that's going to give you some relief on other taxes. Okay.
Okay. I think County Manager Callanan covered that, but I was going to point out there are some caveats with different financial structures of different counties. But yeah, as y'all can see there, Effingham's pretty low. On the general fund personnel, so this is just kind of a summary of some of the proposed changes in this draft budget. This year, just as a little bit of a change from prior years, the physical budget book itself shows personnel counts using the full-time equivalents, or FTEs, instead of the head counts that we traditionally have used. The FTE is a standard unit of measurement where a full-time position equals 1 FTE and a half-time position would equal 0.5 FTEs. For this presentation, we kind of show both head counts and FTEs. The budget is proposed with a 5% COLA and a merit increase that equates to about 3% of total current wages, and that's to be allocated to individuals based on performance. Those departments and offices that saw a mid-year pay increase in fiscal year 23 are not going to be included in that COLA, but will be in the merit. The general fund headcount is proposed to increase by 16 compared to the adopted fiscal year 2023 budget. Some of these positions were already approved in the middle of fiscal year 23, and the largest changes are in the public safety with the sheriff's office, the prison, the school resource officers, and probation. And just as a note, the increases to the school officers and to the prison are mostly offset by revenue contracts that we have with other governmental entities in the area. And on an FTE basis, the proposed budget has 397.68 FTEs in the general fund. So here we have a list of all of the general fund departments and constitutional officers and elected officials' offices. We do see some changes in the net change column. I'm going to go over a few of the bigger ones. Department 7 Court Services sees a large increase, and this is due to the courthouse audio-video upgrade project, which we expect to take place in fiscal year 24. The sheriff's office has an increase that is driven by the mid-year pay changes that they had, and also by non-cash expenses for the GASB 87 vehicle lease expenditures that we have to record. Department 19 EMS and Department 32, the senior center, both see some big changes, and those are driven by the capital projects that are in their budget this year. There are some upgrades to the senior center in there, and EMS has some stations, including the Rinkin station that they're going to be, that was a building that was acquired recently that's going to be converted into a full EMS station. The school resource officers, we do see an increase there, and that was driven by the 5 new school officers that were added with the agreement with the Board of Education in fiscal year '23. While in IT, we do see a big increase there, and that's driven by new software contracts, with the biggest one of those being the new migration to Office 365 that's going to take place in fiscal year '24. And another thing to note out in that previous slide, the Department 51 other agencies, that big decrease that it had was the JDA payment that was made in fiscal year '23, and that's not in there for fiscal year
Go back to the
24.
previous slide, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I don't have that in here, but I've got it here. What is the reason for see, probation has gone up 50%, one department? What's the reason for them going up 50%? I don't recall.
Right, their size is pretty small, so they had 2 positions added. They had a probation officer added, and then they had a admin assistant added. And the probation officer was one of the ones approved in the middle of the fiscal year.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
and I can give you the basis on that. If you recall, there's been a massive increase in caseload for them, just because some changes in the state court.
So, so their caseload is going up, and we have that much more crime in the county, or citations?
I think it's more of a change on how they process it's more of a change on how they process these particular folks who are given citations. If they do not have the funds, they are now automatically, I think in the past, they've been given a stay to come back and get the money to pay, but now they're being sent to probation until they can pay in full.
He's giving you a very laid-back explanation on that. Good explanation there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I see the courts are really going up in their cost, and I think between now and the second reading, we might want to dig a little deeper into what's the issues there, and what can we do, something we need to address as a board.
Okay.
Because I see everybody else is either holding to a reasonable percentage, but courts are really going up, and I don't know that we have a bigger difference in our citations than we did.
There is an increase in the amount of fines, but it's certainly not enough to offset the addition in costs.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
I'd say we owe it to the taxpayers to dig deeper.
Yeah, we may want to follow up with those in the courts that may be creating this issue and have some discussion with them. I don't know if any of them here tonight. They want to speak to us, but I think probably at the next, we might have them here to address
Sure.
the budget increases and why, and what processes they feel are so necessary that our cost is skyrocketing.
I got you. I can make sure all parties are here.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, next up, that kind of concluded the general fund section, so now we're going to look into the special funds. And the special funds includes departments like Fire and Rescue, E911, Public Works, Development Services, and the vast majority of capital projects are housed in the special funds. For fiscal year '24, the budget is proposed across all special funds at $157 million. This number includes ongoing capital projects with roads, parks, the water system, and others. This also includes $20 million of the $41 million new wastewater treatment plant. This plant is fully funded by state grants, and it will take more than one fiscal year to complete, so that's why we have a portion of that cost in this year's budget. The majority of the increase in fiscal year 2024 is due to capital projects, with an overall increase of 15.4%, and that is including the treatment plant in there, in that number. This is a continuation of that. This is the fund balance as proposed to be spent in the special funds. And in the special funds, when fund balance is budgeted to be spent is for the capital projects that's in there. If all of these projects in this year's budget are completed, we do expect at the end of the year that the 2017 SPLOST will be fully expended, and the water bonds from the 2017 refinance will be fully expended too by the end of the year. And those are going primarily this year to the Hodgeville Lift Station project.
So what are we thinking our fund balance will be at the end of this fiscal year after those monies are spent? I mean, is there a percentage or amount that we think will still hold?
For some of these, the idea, like the 2017 SPLOST, the idea is that's gonna be fully expended. So that'll be zero.
But typically, what is our percentage? I know we typically say our fund balance is X.
For the general fund, you know, we have the normal operating reserve kind of set at 25% now.
Okay.
And we had around 19 million at the end of fiscal year 22. And I don't want to give a preliminary number yet for fiscal year 23, but that number's probably going to increase a little bit.
So you think we'll have above 25%?
I think so.
Yeah, and I think one of the things we're trying to kind of be very conservative and hold that for is that these capital projects that Mark mentions, they're based on the budget, the previous budgets, and we know that they're going to be higher in most cases. So we'll have ample enough cushion to be able to make up for those shortfalls and not go anywhere near the 25% level.
Mm-hmm.
Mark, is there a 5-year capital budget plan that we're still looking at? And I asked that question with this, I'm sure we are, just want to make sure. EOM is being included in what major improvements we might need to do with our wastewater treatment facility, the other items of that?
And if I can take that,
Yeah.
one of the things that we're trying to do, and we'll actually probably end up doing it as an amendment to this budget as we work on it over the summer, and I think Mark might have mentioned in some of the budget changes earlier in the year, is to first create that 5-year CIP, but then now that we have a fund balance policy, when the end of the fiscal year comes and then we've got, we can do the reconciliation to determine where our fund balance is versus what our requirement is. We can then roll those funds into that capital fund to continue to fund these projects that we have on the list. And so to answer your question is, at the moment, no, we do track our capital projects. Obviously, we now with our kind of our CIP program management, but we want to now include that in the budget as a 5-year plan with a capital budget that doesn't zero itself out every year, which is what we have been doing historically.
Well, our bond rating is, what, one level away from AAA?
Yeah, very close. Yeah.
And I know our healthy fund balance had, contributed to that. I know it's multiple factors that go into that, but what is keeping us from going to the AAA bond? I mean, do they tell us that?
Yeah, they do. And I think the last time they told us, I think their big thing was income levels for the average income levels for the residents was really the item that kind of kept us slightly below where AAA equivalent would be. But as we discussed in the workshop earlier, those numbers are going up. And we have not gone through a full review. We've done kind of a cursory review that they do every 2 years, and that's when they upgraded us.
So we get evaluated every 2 years?
Yeah, about every 2 years.
Okay,
by
that's gonna be my
Moody's.
next question.
And then if we were to issue a bond, which would require a rating, they'd go through us with a, little bit more finer tooth comb.
Okay.
So I'm looking forward if that amendment, and look at that 5-year plan. I think it's gonna be key, that we'll have revenues that we think are coming in for those things, and then the capital, which might allow us to look at the dirt roads that we're talking about as well.
Right.
We might could go ahead and look and say, all right, over the next 5 years, we can kind of address this, this, and this, and that'll keep it before us as well. When you're looking at just the current budget, it's easy to forget about sometimes the bigger plan, or the maintenance that's coming up to our current one MGD it could be $8 million overhaul to get it up to where it needs to be once we get the other two built. So it'd be good to have that planned out, when and how we can pull the trigger on those items.
You're up. Sorry, I interrupted.
Okay, here we have the special funds personnel section. And like the general fund, there's a 5% COLA and the 3% merit for the special funds. And just like in the general fund, those departments that got a mid-year increase in fiscal year 2023 are not going to be included in the COLA in fiscal year 24. The special funds headcount increased by 8 in this proposed draft. And on an FTE basis, the new total across all special funds is 136.04. The biggest change in this budget is in the fire department. The City of Rincon fire agreement is set to end on June 30th, 2023, and that's part of the need for the 6 new firefighters. There's actually 3 firefighters and 3 lieutenants in there for a total of 6. The county payroll is going to increase when that agreement expires, but on the flip side, the expenses are going to decrease by $625,000 a year. So it's a little bit of a wash on that in the fire department.
So total of 24 new employees, 16 in general fund and 8 in special fund, okay.
Yes, sir. That's kind of the net figure. There were some subtractions, additions, and some people transferred from special fund to general fund, but that's the
Okay.
net, yeah. Like with the general fund, this sheet shows the detail of the departments for these special funds. And in this chart, capital projects can make a very big swing from year to year. So going down some of the major changes, we see in the water and sewer operating department, down there, Department 105, we see a change of nearly 4.8 million. And that increase is driven by the construction of Loop B, which we expect that to start. That's been under design phase, and we expect that to start in fiscal year 24. We also do see some of the SPLOST 2017 departments kind of winding down compared to last year as those funds are becoming fully expended. SPLOST 2021 is up a good bit, and that's driven largely by the new wastewater treatment plant. That plant is fully state funded via the grant, but of course we still have to expend the funds first and record that expense in there before we get reimbursed from the state. In this slide, we have a little bit of information on capital across all funds. This is looking at general fund and SPLOST, or general fund and special funds. And in total, there was 130 million requested and 95 million proposed across all funds. This includes existing projects that are currently underway, such as some of the major water infrastructure projects, the T-SPLOST road projects, including the intersections and roundabouts, and some of the fire stations, and a lot of projects that have been carried forward, like the EMS ambulances, which have been on back order for a long time now. All of those projects altogether are totaling up 95 million. There are several major water infrastructure projects listed in this budget, not just the treatment plant, but there's a number of them that have been in the design phase and are expected to go into construction this year. Loop B construction, we mentioned that, the wastewater treatment plant, and also the sanitary force main on Hodgeville. And we're also looking at the lift station on Hodgeville is most likely going to be constructed and finished in fiscal year 24. Also in the capital plan, significant funding is set aside for multiple parks throughout the county. And like we mentioned, work continues on with the T-SPLOST road project list. And many of the 2021 SPLOST Level 2 projects that are funded via the bond are in this budget this year. And for more detail on the capital projects, page 12 of the budget book has a full listing of not just what was requested, but what's also recommended for the budget this year. And just a little bit more additional information, the agency budgets are included in this draft, and that would be like the public defenders in the district attorney's office. And we talked about the millage rate a little bit earlier, but the millage rate is set by the board at a later date. This draft does use the 5.939 rollback rate. And a little bit of information that is in the staff report, but new for this year, the budget ordinance has language near the end that sets a maximum vehicle fleet size and a maximum personnel number, and these numbers can be adjusted throughout the year with board approval. And another note is that the schedule of fees is going to be brought before the board at a future meeting for some discussion of changes there. And this today has just been a reading and a presentation. Currently, the plan is to adopt the budget at the June 6th, 2023 meeting.
Okay.
So what we're talking about tonight is we are looking at giving our employees a 5% COLA, up to 3% merit raise. We're increasing employment by 24 between general fund and special fund. We've got over 150 million in capital projects going on right now. I think it's well above that if we, roll in the Effingham Parkway. Possibly going to have above 25% fund balance in general fund. Our bond rating is 1 away from AAA, and we're still recommending lowering the millage rate by 1% to be under 6%.
By 1 mil.
1 mil,
Yes, sir, that's correct.
under 6%. Okay.
Cheapest tax of
It-
any county.
And I'll say last year, we were discussing, and it was doable but aggressive to be 6.258. So we've actually gone under that, which is good.
What was the comment before the meeting? Last 3 years, it's gone down, what, 22%?
Yeah, if you take, we were about 7.5 mils about 3 years ago. We've rolled back the last 2 years, and now we're doing the rollback and an additional reduction this year brings it back about 22% decrease
Yeah.
of millage rate.
And I think many of you guys were on the board, I wasn't, when the millage was over 9, and you started rolling it back about 10 or 12 years ago to 8, and then it's the 7 you're talking about, so.
And we're not sacrificing services or.
That's sacrifice. I think we got great services. We have a great hospital, we have a great sheriff's department, EMS. So I know we're patting ourselves on the back here, but I'm really proud of this board being
It's staff,
conservative.
it's not us.
Huh?
It's staff, not us.
Yeah, but proud of the board and the staff and department heads doing a good job of what they do and the resources that are allotted to them, and allowing us to be able to give back.
So regardless of what Facebook is saying, there's good stuff going on.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just had to say that. I just had to put that in there.
I'll check real quickly before we move to the side. This is discussion. Is there any question, discussion? I'll take a couple of comments from anybody in the audience that want to talk about the budget. Things you don't see. This is a public document now that if they want to get a hold of it, it's in the office. If you want to come flip through it, if you're a department head or a constituent or a staff, and you want to see what's being planned and budgeted, now's the time to ask those questions before we get to our first reading, which will be the first meeting in June.
Yes, sir.
About a month away, or 2 or 3 weeks away. Appreciate our staff. Anything else?
No, sir. Staff recommends alternative 1, approve the first reading of the draft fiscal year 2024.
Was this the first reading? I thought it was just discussion.
It's the first reading.
First
First
reading, it was a presentation. He did, Mark did indicate that, but I don't think
Yeah,
that's.
I thought it was the first reading to start with. He said this, yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
don't think that was.
All right. Second reading will be an opportunity to add and delete, take away, get better. And good. Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the first reading as presented.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Burdette to approve the second reading as presented. All in favor say aye. First
Aye.
reading as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no no's, the first reading is approved. Thank you again. I know a lot of hard work for all the department heads. I think all the board would like to express their thanks for the hours it takes to put this together.
And I think our budget process has gotten better. I think Tim's done a good job, Tim and his team. I know talking with other department heads, it doesn't seem to be, something they're dreading now. It seems to
Right.
be a smoother process.
And I will say that, well, first of all, I want to thank Mark and his department all the time. They put in this extra time to put this together. But I also want to say on the department heads and the appointed and electeds as general, they do come into the budget meeting with the taxpayer in mind. They don't come in and say, ask for the moon and, just, take what they give me. They don't do that. They start off with very reasonable approaches. We're able to have conversations about it. I let them know where I try and do my best to let them know where you all are coming from on this, and so they help to make this process easy. We've got a great crew, department heads and electeds who kind of push the ball forward.
So Mark, appreciate it, all of you appreciate it. Feel free to come in at 9:30 in the morning, take an hour off.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, before you move forward, unfinished business number 2, I'm not certain we could have voted on that. We probably need to remove that because I don't think it was a unanimous vote. I don't think we could have second reading. Point of order.
Oh, all right, Mr. Lee, is that correct? If it's not unanimous, you have to postpone second reading to the next meeting, or?
That's right.
I'd have to look. I know when
pretty
we add
certain.
conditions, I don't not necessarily think that it's unanimous, but if you want to give me a minute, I can look and check.
If you want to check it while we're having the rest of the meeting, is that something you can do, or?
Sure.
Okay,
I'm sorry, but that's how I remember it, and I don't want to,
that's because you got a legacy of zoning in your family.
I thought that was only if there was no changes.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was going on.
Yeah, but I've
He's
heard if it's
questioning if
it's
I
not
got you.
unanimous,
If it's not unanimous, he's gonna check it.
always been my understanding.
Okay, so we'll check that maybe before we finish the meeting. Appreciate that.
Well, I
input.
just don't want it to be an issue down the road, it needs to be clean.
Yep, absolutely. All right, under new business, while the attorney's over there diligently searching, let's this next. Item number 2, consideration to approve a final plat of Northgate Industrial Park Phase 1 located off of Old Augusta Road, consisting of 5 lots, map number 478, parcel number 2 in the 5th District.
Good evening, Chelsea Fernald, planner. So Northgate Industrial Park is located on Old Augusta Road, next to Leo at the Sanctuary, formerly known as Jasper Village. The plat that is in your packet there, it does show a 5-parcel split. The first lot that you see is 28.118 acres. The second lot is 30.424 acres, and the third lot is 26.37 acres. To the south is the remaining tract 3, which is 77.99 acres, and then to the north of all of that, there is a remaining portion that is 19.217 acres. That is a private access and utility easement. General Way, which is the private road within Northgate, will remain private until construction is complete. And I believe that is all 3 buildings. Each lot will have a separate building. And at that time, that road will then be dedicated to the county, and that will be a separate right-of-way plat that comes back before you. Staff is recommending alternative 1, and Mr. Chad Zitrauer is here if you do have any specific questions for that plat.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or discussion from the board?
I don't make a motion to approve the plat as presented.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kiefer, second Mr. Loper to approve the plat as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no no's, it passes unanimously. Item number 3, consideration to approve a warranty deed, final plat, and infrastructure agreement submitted by Next Phase Development Company LLC for Shadowbrook Phase 5B, located off of Log Landing Road, consisting of map number 428, parcel number 21 in the 4th District.
All right, Shadowbrook Phase 5C will consist of 30 lots, and roads and stormwater infrastructure are in place, and they have been inspected through EOM. Water and sewer will be provided by the city of Springfield, and an infrastructure agreement has been included with the final plat. The bond recommendation has been approved, and that is for $18,310. That is 10% of the total cost of drainage, concrete work, and paving. Our county attorney has reviewed and approved the warranty deed, the infrastructure agreement, the utility agreement between the developer and the city is referenced in the warranty deed. Staff does recommend alternative 1. And Mr. Alec Metzger is here if you have any specific questions.
Any questions or discussion or motion for alternative 1?
Make a motion to approve order number 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second by Mr. Deloach to approve alternative number 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously.
Thank you. Alec Metzger, EMC Engineering. Just wanted to do a point of clarification. It's 5C. It's 5B in the notes. Just wanted that to be correct. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Phase 5C.
Five.
Does Reggie need to amend his?
Should it be
Well,
5B or
strike those
5C?
agreements
Should be
to
5C,
Shadowbrook.
right? It should be 5C.
It says 5C.
5C.
Alternative 1 says 5C.
Yeah, I think it was just on the agenda as 5B, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
the alternative 1 is Shadowbrook Phase 5C, and we approved alternative 1, so we should be
Okay.
good.
The
All
staff
right.
report
Thank
was
you.
right, the agenda's wrong.
That's right.
All right, I just wanted to make sure it was.
Yeah, yeah, it
correct.
was just on the agenda,
Yeah,
right?
Thank you.
Jenna's got that. Thank you, though, Alec. Item number 4, consideration to approve quote number 2022-549153 from Evoqua,
That's how I say it.
okay, for
That's what we're
replacement
calling it.
equipment needed at the wastewater treatment plant.
Yes, sir. Allison Bruton, purchasing agent. So both clarifier drives at the wastewater treatment plant are actually in need of replacement. This quote is for one. The other one's been requested in next year's budget. Evoqua is also the only vendor that they've been able to locate that has a clarifier drive that would not require major plant modifications. So staff recommends alternative 1.
Just a quick question. I'm assuming the clarifiers are working now. This is just,
Yeah, they're just at reduced capacity.
okay.
So we're operating, they are operating, they're just, somewhat reduced right now.
Takes a little longer.
And it's the only thing that's really affecting is septic intake. We've kind of had to limit that. We're still accepting it, but we can only take so much in a given day.
And so how long will it be before that is done on the first one?
There's a 16-week lead time to get the first clarifier in. So they wanted to go ahead and get that on order.
Yep, sounds good. This is what I was talking about, make sure we are talking to EOM so we don't get that close to being down on clarifiers.
Right. I didn't know we were down the first one, and so the second one was,
And I don't know if that's,
created the issue.
if
We're
it's,
just,
if it's our,
yeah.
but EOM's over that, so they need to be communicating. We need to make sure that we've got the capital improvements, what's coming next, headworks, channels, what, before they go down, screens. That's why I like to see that in the 5-year plan. I know they had that at one time.
They did, and I think we're trying to get, we're going to try and move ahead with the second clarify, but, the goal is to get this plant
Absolutely.
moving along until the new one comes along, then shut it down, and then completely revamp it.
Okay.
And so, that could be the reason why they were kind of holding back, but I think we are, they're pretty clear that we need to get this thing to 1 million gallons a day.
And that's
fairly
exactly,
quickly.
I communicated to Stamey not too long ago, we have to know what the material maintenance items are so we can budget for them.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That's all. Any other question, discussion, or motion to approve alternative 1?
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Deloach to approve alternative 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Being no nos, it passes unanimously. Item number 5, consideration to approve resolution 23-006 for surplus of various items.
Yes, sir. So this is pretty straightforward. There are some vehicles listed on there, as well as some miscellaneous items from magistrate court and a chair from elections.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions, discussion, or motion for alternative one?
Do we really have a typewriter?
Apparently, yes.
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Burdette to approve alternative one. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing no no's, it passes unanimously.
And a TV VCR combo.
And if there's a teenager in the audience, he's asking, what's a typewriter?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, item number 6, a new business consideration to approve to submit an application and project list for the LMIG 2023 Safety Action Plan acceptance of funding.
Yes, sir. So this program does focus on low-cost safety improvements that are likely to reduce the frequency and severity of crashes. The total cost of the projects, the money that we'll receive is $170,000, and there is a local match that is required. The proposed application and listing is in your packets, and this application is due by May 19th.
Okay. Question, discussion, and motion for alternative one.
And for the record, I did ask them to reduce
Huh?
the amount of rumble strips in this application, so.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Burdette. For alternative one, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no no's, it passes unanimously. Item number 7, under new business, consideration to approve a termination letter for Global Tel Link Corporation for the inmate telephone and video visitation service agreement.
Yes, sir. So the prison is requesting to terminate this current agreement. The termination will occur after 60 days from the date on the letter. There was I was incorrect on the contract end date. I had originally put September, but the contract end date is actually July 17th, and the termination's effective July 15th, so we're talking about 2 days on the initial term. But yes, that is the request. Staff recommends alternative one.
Any question, discussion, or motion for alternative one?
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Deloach for alternative one. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no no's, it passes unanimously. And last one for you is consideration to approve, this number 9, a master lease and service agreement for an addendum for home WAV for Effingham County Prison for inmate telephone and video visitation services. This is going to take the place of the other one.
Yes, basically. The jail is using the same group. They absolutely love it, so that's why the prison would like to move forward with it. There is a slight typo with the staff report. Originally, we were going to have an addendum, but we don't have that on this. So it is just the service agreement as it's listed.
Service agreement, that's the alternative one, is just a service agreement, right?
Yes, should be.
All right, very good. Save us money?
It will actually give us more. The revenue, the percentage that we receive for the gross amount billed, I believe, if I'm understanding this
We're
correctly.
getting a larger percentage.
We get a
of that.
larger percentage, yes, sir. But they also offer more services than what GTL did.
More services for more revenues coming in,
yes.
less costs.
Yes.
Motion for alternative one.
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Loper for alternative one. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no no's, it passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. Item number 9, consideration to approve resolution number 23-007 for a pre-application to DNR Land and Water Conservation Fund.
Good afternoon, Mark Barnes again. The application for the Atlas Walking Trails Grant was approved in the previous meeting. And as part of that process, Georgia DNR requires a resolution.
Doing for that area.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's great. That was like a
Yes.
$500,000 we might could get for that.
This grant can be
Fingers
up to that
crossed.
much.
District One's got it going on.
Yeah, District 1 might wanna make a motion. We'll make a motion,
Yeah, I make a motion we approve alternative one.
which includes a $500,000 grant in your department for a wonderful park and walking trail. Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Deloach. All in favor say aye.
Floyd.
Aye.
Floyd did the motion. Floyd did the
I
motion.
meant Floyd. I'm looking. Thank you. Motion, Mr. Floyd, second, Mr. Deloach. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no no's, it passes unanimously.
Thank you.
What's happened when you get old, man? You just swap people's names around.
Mr. Chairman, I just got a text from Lee, and Commissioner Kiefer was correct, so that we actually have to, and I'm not sure of the process, but I think as a matter of safety, we rescind the vote on second reading and then schedule it for the next meeting.
All right. Do we need to,
Hard to be a troublemaker, but
do we have Phil as our assistant counsel?
Yeah, we could say,
I think it's the
I think
legacy
you probably
he has from
might have to
zoning.
make a motion to, I don't know,
The vote.
yeah, rescind the
and-
vote.
and
I think what I'll,
request that-
I think what I'll do is
and
just.
then go back and table the item.
Yeah,
Yeah, hang on a second. Let me go back to that. Who made the
Or not
motion?
table it,
Reconsideration,
Just don't,
rec-
yeah, just don't,
All right,
don't take
Mr.
action.
Floyd, you made the, you made the motion. Will you rescind your motion?
Yes. I
And
rescind the motion.
Mr. Loper, you rescind your second?
Yes.
And if all the board agrees with that, say aye. Okay, we're gonna note that it was, the motion and the second was rescinded, and all the board voted aye. All right, now do we have a motion to,
Well, we
we
don't
don't
need
have
to
to
take
motion it.
action.
Yeah,
Item,
there's no
yeah.
action. It'll be, it'll be,
Be on the next-
Automatically be on the next meeting
Be on
agenda.
the next meeting.
yeah, it'll be on the 6-2 meeting. We'll have the second reading.
can you let the applicant know since he left?
Now, I would ask that you let the clerk know when she's doing the next agenda, to make that very clear, that the second reading was rescinded based on legal basis, and it will be heard. We make that a public notice, okay? All right, that covers our business. Any other business for the good of the county? We'll go to our reports from the commissioners and administrative staff. We'll start with our manager.
Yes, I wanted to just concentrate on T-Splost here, if we can, just so you know where we are status-wise. Lee and I are meeting tomorrow to go over the draft of the IGAs and the referendum language. But they all are contingent upon us creating a list. I know I did get a list from Commissioner Deloach. But I also am going to set up on a list based on the road scores that we got when they did the assessment. I'm working on getting that broken out into districts so you all can see. And then also letting you know that any of the roads that we've discussed. I know Commissioner Floyd had given me some roads as well. But I've been trying to keep a running list. I will send that all out to you if you can get them back, and then so we can come up with a recommended list for the so that we can do a just kind of a vote of approval prior to doing the IGA, just to make sure we're all on the same page.
And we'll look at that in maybe 30 days, 2 meetings from now, or?
Yeah, I would say 2 meetings from now would probably be good. You'll have information from me hopefully by, if not the end of this week, early next week. And then we can kind of whittle it down there, figure out how much we can afford, make sure that, this work is spread out to all districts, and, that we prioritize the projects that we need to prioritize.
Can you remind me when our next T-Splosh meeting is? Do you have it off the top of your head?
I don't think we had one.
Huh?
The
The next one, we don't have one scheduled, you don't think?
I don't think we had one scheduled.
Okay.
We don't really.
We had that one mandatory one.
We had the one mandatory
Right, I don't
one.
think we have anything else on the books.
Yeah, but I don't think we have anything else on the books. I think generally,
I think it would be good for you to look at the calendar, but just to make sure every city, including ours as a county, are held accountable to getting their list in. We don't want to get to the 9th hour and someone says, we're not having a meeting, we don't have our list yet.
that's right.
I think I'd put something on there, even if it's just to share your list.
No, I will. I will absolutely. They were told to schedule when we had the meeting, but I will remind them of it. We are going to request the lists, and not just the list, but their past resolutions, their IGAs, I'm sorry, their past IGAs, well in advance of when the cutoff is. So I think we're talking sometime in July when technically the cutoff is September, but we think July is a good time frame for that.
You got good room for margin there, so that's good.
And that's all I have.
Okay. Anything from our staff? Okay, I'm gonna go around the horn.
I'm good.
Just a couple things. We were talking a little bit about the earlier one. I didn't mean to be the bad guy and make you go to a second reading. But just done a little math on a fence, and just, I've had experience in the past where without fences, kids get on, they're you know, can get hurt in their ponds and different things like that, get on the property. You know, kids tend to roam out in the woods. I know I did as a kid. And I've seen it happen where it creates problems and other things. And it puts a burden on those people around there. And it's not necessary all the time, but this kind of density, when you're surrounded by that, I don't necessarily disagree with the development itself. I thought the development was well thought out, reduced, and I actually like it. But just something that we don't put the burden on those present homeowners, you know, if you guys would consider that. You know, just a couple $100, less than $200 a unit would give a $40,000 fence. You know, I think they could recoup that in the sales process pretty easily. And just minimum requirements, wooden fence, something to give them some protection. You know, they've been there for a gazillion years and have acreage and everything else. Now all of a sudden you've got 218 townhomes right next to you. You're going to get people coming over. But just some thoughts on that. I don't know how you would go about that, or
It'd have to be added to the ordinance.
yeah, in some way. But I wouldn't want to make it so restrictive where. But it just have to be when you got super density like this against, you know, homes nearby.
Well, I know one of the things that the planning board has brought up to us was their general concern with R3 development and the amount of buffer, the limited amount of buffer that's required in it. And I don't know if a wider buffer would accomplish the same thing, or because it would on privacy, but maybe not necessarily on safety. But that's something I know we are looking at because we've got a good amount of feedback on it to amend the R3 zoning to include a wider buffer.
Water buffer.
Yeah.
Let's
Well,
consider a fence.
Part of the ordinance, though, the reason we increased the green space is exactly to address the issue.
So they'd have places to play,
To
but
play. I mean,
they
kids,
still
a
go.
4-foot cyclone fence ain't gonna stop a
no, but you know, if you had a 6-foot privacy fence, that would give some deterrence. I think I've done it in past developments because of the same problems, and it helps some. It's not gonna, if somebody wants to get through something, they'll for sure. I mean, I get it, but just something to protect those people that are, you know, I don't put the burden on them to do stuff. And the flip side of that, if you got a neighborhood nearby and you got multifamily right there, and then they start putting fences up, you got 30 different kinds of fences in that neighborhood because, oh, this guy wants privacy fence, another one wants the plastic fence, another one wants chain link, and you know, you got, I think it's the appearance of that neighborhood would go down in that way. It's really everything else. I could talk to you later. I got some stuff at Park West. I don't know if you've gotten some stuff. Of course, I'm behind on a lot of things, trying to catch up and get back in the that's really all it. I can get with you
And
later.
catch up tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's really good, these general discussions, though, whether it's fence or whatever, because we need to always be looking at what can we do, thinking outside of the box to make things better, whatever it is.
We got growth coming, and we need it, really.
We continue to look at it.
That's gonna happen.
I got 2 or 3 things real quick. Tim, just for the board, tomorrow we're meeting with the cities to discuss a possible sewer authority. And I guess water's on the table, but sewer's the bigger thing. So we can't have a quorum there from our committee, but the commission. But right now we're planning like the mayor and the manager and the chairman and the manager of our county. But if anybody wanted to attend, we can have 2 or 3 people there, so.
I want to be involved going forward, just since both of them touch my district, but I've got something at 10. So, I mean, I won't be able to be there in the morning, but future meetings.
We'll make sure that
I'd
you're
like to
there.
be
This
there
is
if I
really
can be there.
preliminary, because I really want to get their thoughts on how we can help them. Now that we have some government funding, we don't have to have them for what we're doing for our needs in the unincorporated area, but wow, what a good opportunity to see if we can assist them and lower their constituents' cost of operation, to see if they want to come be a part of this and do something.
Time's that in the morning?
10 o'clock.
10?
In the administrative, I guess we'll be upstairs or here?
I think it was supposed to be upstairs, but I think with the amount of people, I might move it to the training room.
Okay, training room, sounds good.
What's that?
We have orientation tomorrow.
Okay, it'll be in the conference room upstairs.
Sounds good. Alan mentioned something to me that I've noticed, and that's why it's good to just hear today, Mr. Zipper, that, and maybe we've talked about it, and he may have mentioned to some other folks on the board, about setbacks on county roads. I see houses that are being built. I'm wondering how close they are to our right of way. We don't know in the future when we might need a wider road. I don't know where the particular areas are, but I'm not at courthouse. I saw, houses that went up, but they may be far enough back. But it might be good for us to consider if you're on a county road, particularly a collector or a arterial road, that we have a bigger setback so that if we need to go get right away, we're not buying houses.
And
And a good example is Lincoln, what they didn't do on Blue Jay.
That's
and
right.
Branford. Now they got, if they ever want to widen that road, they got to buy houses.
Well, I was going to mention to you, you're referring to the rear of the houses, correct? Where the rear of the houses face the road?
No,
Or are you talking about the
No, I'm
fronts?
talking about setback, doesn't matter rear or front.
Okay.
You just don't want it to be within, say we need 120 foot of highway, and they're only 60-foot setback, we're within 5 feet of being okay, but now we got to buy the house for 5
Well,
foot.
under our 5 standards now, we included language in there I think it was just basically to encourage, not just simply for the right-of-way acquisition, but for the aesthetics of it. Some sort of screening, whether it's a berm, vegetated berm, ornamental grass, or something that gives a cushion between the road and the house, so you're not coming around a turn and seeing somebody's backyard or seeing a fence right up to the road. And so that was included in the R5, but I think we can probably do a little bit more that was one of the last minute changes, so I think we can do more to make it more of a requirement versus an encouragement. So, but we can work on it.
And probably not as concerned about the R5s because they are going to build an entryway and going into it as I am about, take Little McCall Road where I live. There's some houses there pretty close to the road, and we think that'll never need to be widened, but we didn't think a lot of roads need to be widened. And look where
Sure.
we're at. And that's an example. There's some roads right at the ditch, houses right at the ditch almost. They got a small 30-foot yard. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll look at the front setbacks. I thought they were substantial. I thought they were 55.
50 in the AR1.
Okay.
In front.
What?
Setback from the property line or the right of way?
35 in R1, that should be
It's
the
50.
property.
It's 50 in AR1, AR2, 35 in the Rs. So we can go farther back, and that's from the right of way, or is that from the street?
Property line.
From the property line. That's what I meant. So that's from the property line right away, and so it should be a good cushion. I don't know if that's changed recently. They may
I
have
would
some
just
old
check it.
houses.
He brought that up. I thought it was a good point.
Yeah.
I know, like my property, used to the property line was the center of the road,
Yeah.
okay? Because when I got my plat, it used to be that way.
Well,
Unless it's
that's right.
changed.
When there was just prescriptive easement,
And
essentially.
then the county had a easement or right of way there. I'm not sure what so I'm not sure where the property line goes now. But just need to be careful that we make sure that some possible courthouses, McCall, somebody could be within 40 or 50 foot of the highway and be legal, and we may end up need 120 foot, 60 on both sides.
I got you.
He brought it up, and I thought it sounded like something we ought to make sure and look into. So I bring that to your attention as a staff. And then I would like for us to pretty quickly get on this land use with R5 and R3 that we've talked about.
Right.
How we can get that into some mapping for the board to review, and maybe in the next 60 days, have something really solid to go by. No R3 will be in this area, or it will be in this area. So we're not just doing a hodgepodge. I'd really like to see that within the next 60 days, just some drawing of where these things we've talked about, where they should be, so we can start looking at it.
And we can get you a sample of, because we're pretty far down the road on the future land use map, but we can kind of get you a sample that kind of integrates these, almost like commercial corridors where you can
Right.
have high density.
Yeah.
And then, once if you recall, the changing of the future land use map is a very time-consuming process because it's part of the comprehensive plan. So the thought is that as we go through that, we have to get all of the municipalities on board and go through all the public hearings and so on and so forth. Our thought is to pass an updated future land use map as a policy document. as we wait to go through the process of the, so therefore we can use it or you all can use it in your decision-making process, and we don't have to wait until the comp plan gets approved,
That's what I'm
which
looking for, something that we
could
could
take
point to that,
a good amount of time.
and we're consistent. That
Okay.
sounds good. That's all I've got. Mr. Loach?
I've got a question for, EOM, but I'll get with you on that
Okay.
tomorrow. That's all.
Okay.
How about the speed limit, in front of Webb's Feed Store on Springfield, Stillwell Road? I spoke to you about it.
Yes, you
I
did.
thought the speed limit by there is 55 all the way through there.
And I did ask the sheriff's department about it, and I just didn't follow up with them. So let me call them back to find out where we are. And I think they agreed when I talked to them there that the speed in that location is a huge problem.
I think from Springfield to Stillwell.
Yeah,
But the fastest place to get along there is right in front of Webb's Feed and Seed.
right. I know exactly what you're talking about. It becomes a straightaway. Yeah, it becomes a straightaway, and it's.
There's a world of people in there this time of year.
Yeah, and let me give me a day on that to follow up with the sheriff's office to find out where we are. Like I said, we could always change the speed limit.
But we need some time
But we-
for also.
Yeah,
Can't enforce it.
but it might not be enforceable until we get the new traffic study. But I mean, at least we can put new signs up.
Okay.
That we can do by approval of the board. We just sheriff wouldn't be able to use radar. That's all until the formal study's done.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay.
The only thing I have, and I know others have heard the same, I get asked about it a lot, on our requirement of 900 feet from a residence from discharging a firearm.
Yes.
That's becoming, especially as new houses, it kind of dovetails with Commissioner Burdette, because it technically, if property is being used as hunting and a home's built, it takes close to 900 feet of that property from being able to use it what you've always used it for.
Right.
And I don't know, I mean, it's obviously something we want to talk to Sheriff McDuffie about, but,
And is that something that we set? Because I know I had somebody ask me the same thing, or is that something the state?
No,
says?
that's in our ordinance.
No, it's
That's our ordinance?
It's more than the states.
well, the state only regulates from a, public right-of-way, I believe, and it's 150 feet or, something like that. But I think that's I don't think, the state doesn't, address from a residence, I don't
And
think.
I think
So we have the authority, I mean, we can change that if we wanted to.
I think so, yeah.
you could.
Stephanie's got an ordinance, because
Yes.
I called and told her about it, so she's got that. I'll just tell her to put it on our next meeting maybe.
Okay.
Discuss it.
So what's the discussion is to reduce that or create exceptions, something to that effect?
Reduce it.
Okay.
Reduce it.
All right.
That's all I had, I just.
Gotcha.
All right. Is there a need for executive session tonight?
No, we don't have an attorney, so.
Yeah.
That's true. He's left us. Attorney has left the building. All right. No need for executive session. Do we have the May 2nd executive session minutes? If you'll take a minute and review those and then give me a motion to approve if you have no corrections or additions. They appear accurate to me. Is any a motion to
I'll make a
approve?
motion to approve the executive session minutes for May 2nd as presented.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Kiefer to approve the May 2nd executive session minutes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously. If there's no other business, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Floyd to adjourn this meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, we are in adjournment.
I'm scooting out and try to make Max's last.
Who was,
yeah, take
who are
off
you
names.
gonna talk to?